Coming up on EIV News at 6. With a potential government shutdown looming, find out why Medicare and Medicaid might be on the chopping block in the days to come.
Plus, I'll tell you which potential Republican candidate for president is ahead of the pack in fundraising, right here on EIV News.
Now, from Emerson's leading news team, with the latest in world news and our nation's top stories, EIV News at 6.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of EIV News at 6. I'm Wynn Harrison.
And I'm Greg Baroud. Here are tonight's top stories.
In a developing story, the Southwest Airlines safety nightmare is not over yet. The airline grounded 2 more jets this week after finding cracks in the outside of 2 of the planes during emergency inspections. These inspections were sparked by an incident over the weekend while a 5-foot portion of the Southwest plane ripped open over 30,000 feet. Southwest has since canceled hundreds of flights and has grounded a total of 5 airplanes due to, quote, minor subsurface cracking. Breaking news in Wisconsin, the votes are in and the winner is still too close to call. What began as a Supreme Court election is now turning into a political bout, matching conservative David Prosser against liberal Joanne Kloppenberg. At this point, Prosser is leading by only a few hundred votes, with 99% of the votes accounted for. This election comes months after Wisconsin's controversial anti-union legislation. Many feel this outcome of the election will be in a good way to gauge the state's feelings about conservative lawmakers.
Meanwhile, continuing arguments between political parties are bringing the nation closer to a government shutdown. Democrats rejected the recent Republican proposal to make another $12 billion in budget cuts. President Barack Obama says House Speaker John Boehner and Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid will meet on their own to make a decision. Parts of the government will shut down if a decision is not made by tomorrow at midnight. In other government news, House Republicans are looking for a new way to cut federal spending. Wisconsin Representative Paul Ryan is proposing changes to the country's Medicaid and Medicare programs. Under his proposal, less money would be given to low-income citizens while reportedly lowering government spending by more than $5 trillion over the next decade.
Look, we intend to not only cut discretionary spending and put caps on spending, you have to address the drivers of our debt. We need to engage with the American people on a fact-based budget, on stopping politicians from making empty promises to people, and talk to the country about what is necessary to fix these problems.
Democrats vehemently reject this proposal. They say Ryan is, quote, declaring a war on the elderly and the poor. Meanwhile, President Obama has officially announced he will run for re-election. Obama's staff plans to file registration papers with the Federal Election Commission this week. The campaign team has already begun plans for fundraising. They say they hope to raise a record $1 billion from donors for the upcoming election. The president will hold his first re-election fundraiser in his hometown of Chicago next week.
And with the presidential election getting closer and closer, the field of potential Republican candidates is slowly emerging.
But a run against Obama is going to require a large war chest. EIV's Joshua Sackheim has more on one possible contender with his eye on the White House and the money he needs to get there.
In the game of politics, there's no underestimating the power of money, and that's something former presidential candidate Mitt Romney understands.
Romney is gearing up for his second bid at the Republican presidential nomination. He's expected to announce his candidacy later this month, but what's really been garnering attention are his fundraising efforts. Romney says his goal is to raise a minimum of $50 million, an amount he says he needs to win in 2012. That $50 million shouldn't be a problem for Romney. By the time he was knocked out of the last Republican primary, he had raised over $90 million. In comparison, Rudy Giuliani had raised around $60 million, Fred Thompson around $21 million, and prior to his race against Obama, McCain had only raised around $54 million.
Romney definitely has the most formidable war chest of the 2012 Republican candidates, and there's still no word on how much of his own fortune he plans to contribute. Reporting from the State House for EIV News, I'm Joshua Sackheim.
Good evening, I'm Caitlin Desjardins with your EIV Sports Update. The Yukon Huskies are the NCAA champions. After such a surprising March Madness, it seems fitting that the winners would break a 70-year-old record. Though the game was possibly one of the ugliest ever, with Butler winning 22-16 at the half, Yukon succeeded in keeping the Bulldogs to a shooting percentage under 20%. For a team with mostly freshman starters, a championship win and one of the best defensive games in college history is a great way to end the season. And for the first time ever, Texas A&M are the women's NCAA champions. Led by junior Danielle Adams, Texas kept the game close, finishing with a 76-70 score. Unlike the men's finals, the women's championship was fast-paced and high-scoring. Now a team that has only been around for 15 years can claim the first national championship. Meanwhile, for everyone who was waiting for Shaquille O'Neal to return to the Celtics lineup, the experience was short-lived. After missing almost 2 months of the season, Shaq was back on the court for a whole quarter before a calf strain caused him to limp to the bench. Boston fans don't need to worry much this time, though. According to team doctors, Shaq's injuries are very minor and he'll be back again soon. And that's all I have for your EIV Sports Update. I'm Caitlin Desjardins.
Thanks, Caitlin. Still ahead on EIV News, we'll tell you the latest in the crisis in Japan as the radioactive fallout continues.
Plus, EIV reporter Ross Lippman takes a look at one of Cape Cod's newest ways to get you and your family outdoors, right here after the break.
Good evening and welcome back. I'm Mike Ciccone with your EIV weather forecast. Out west, Seattle residents should get out and enjoy the sunshine while it lasts. If you know anything about Seattle weather, a day without rain is hard to come by. Highs will be in the mid-50s. One place it will be raining is Southern California, though. LA will be cool with temps under 60 degrees. Moving east, Denver will be seasonable with partly cloudy skies and a mild temp of 60. Upper 80s in both Dallas and Miami with nothing but sun. Shouldn't be too tough to take. Look for late-day thunderstorms in Chicago. Warm weather over the weekend, though, with a high of 75 by Sunday. And keep the umbrella handy if you're in the Northeast. It will be raining in New York, and that system stretches as far south as Mississippi and Alabama. That's it for your EIV weather forecast. I'm Mike Ciccone.
There looks to be no end in sight to the violence in Libya. Muammar Gaddafi loyalists and rebels are fighting over the cities of Al-Brega and Misrata. According to rebel officials, the UN is stepping in to help protect civilians. British authorities will provide communication equipment to the opposition to help protect civilian lives. Meanwhile, there have been no NATO airstrikes in the area over the past 24 hours. And as Libya's rebel forces are pushed back, protests in Yemen are surging forward. Youth protesters are now gathering in defiance of President Ali Abdullah Saleh. Saleh has offered to step down at the end of this year, but opposition is calling for his immediate removal. Medical sources say 15 people were killed and more than 500 injured during demonstrations Monday. Meanwhile, Japan's attempts to contain their radioactive water have been unsuccessful. They now have no choice but to dump over 10,000 tons of water into the Pacific Ocean as workers attempt to find the source of the water's contamination. Officials say they're doing everything they can to fix the problem.
Unfortunately, the accident is occurring and highly radioactive water is coming out. Under these circumstances, we'd like to minimize the impact and the damage as much as possible.
Experts say the radiation will be quickly diluted and they do not expect permanent effects on marine life.
With Earth Day approaching later this month, experts are pushing the public to continue discussions about keeping the environment safe. After the Gulf spill a month after Earth Day last year, and with the continuing nuclear crisis in Japan, experts are encouraging everyone to speak up about environmental issues. Climate officials say they hope the current nuclear crisis doesn't overshadow the environmental problems we face. Meanwhile, scientists are worried humans may be causing animal extinctions. According to science authorities, the current extinction rate is far above normal. Officials say humans have pushed animal extinction through hunting, fishing, and deforestation. Because of climate change, scientists estimate 15 to 37% of all species could go extinct by the year 2050.
In lighter news, though, with spring weather finally here, many recreational areas are opening their doors.
Down on Cape Cod, one of the area's most beloved museums is opening a new kind of outdoor experience for children and their families. EIV reporter Ross Lippman shows this hidden gem.
This weekend, Cape Cod saw one of its oldest museums, Heritage Museum and Gardens, open its doors for its 40th season. But this time, the museum features a brand new exhibit for kids called Hidden Hollow. The exhibit, which is designed for children ages 2 to 10, aims to get children back in touch with nature. Its director, Toby Eugenio, says this mission is one that is crucial for children today.
Children aren't getting outside. They're not spending, we were looking at staggering statistics like the average child spends 4 to 6 hours in front of a screen and 4 minutes outside a day.
Hidden Hollow, which is one of 2 certified Nature Explorer classrooms in New England, provides a variety of activities in its 2-acre facility that not only encourage children to get outdoors, but to learn through self-discovery. Sharon Sherman has been bringing her 2 daughters, Allie and Emma, to Heritage Museums since they were born. She says Hidden Hollow has opened up new options for her children.
They have the ability to be individual and play together or play by themselves and meet people, and it's a safe area, an environment where they feel like they can explore their own interests.
Hidden Hollow's mission also extends to the White House and President Obama's Let's Move campaign, which encourages families to get outside with their children for at least an hour a day.
Moving up, they're looking at moving for an hour a day, 20 minutes a day, anything to get us changing kind of our focus on technology, for example. Looking at changing obesity rates, diabetes rates that are climbing in our country.
Reporting from Sandwich, Massachusetts, I'm Ross Lippman, EIV News.
Thanks for that, Ross. For a closer look inside Hidden Hollow, make sure to check out our special production, EIV News Sunday in New England, airing Sunday, April 24th at 10:30 a.m. on the Journalism Channel.
Well, Greg, it seems like the Charlie Sheen train, I can't seem to speak tonight, has considerably slowed down.
Yeah, I know. We haven't really talked about him for the last couple of weeks, and now it seems like that train has derailed. For more on that, let's send it over to Bryce Fallon.
Thanks, Greg and Wen. I'm Bryce Fallon with your latest in cultural news. Charlie Sheen has certainly started off his speaking tour with a bang. The former 2.5 Men star did his first show in Saturday in Detroit. As is now expected for Sheen, he babbled on incoherently and berated the audience. While Sheen himself may have found this charming and entertaining, the audience didn't. After enduring enough abuse, the audience booed Sheen off stage, most of them demanding a refund. In response to the incident, Sheen has of course blamed the audience, not himself. Looks like someone isn't #winning anymore. Meanwhile, Will Smith can do anything, or at least he thinks he can do anything. The internationally renowned movie star has signed on to star opposite his son Jaden in a new sci-fi movie set 1,000 years in the future. Sounds awesome, right? The only catch is the movie is being directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan was the once critically acclaimed director of The Sixth Sense, but has since met critical and box office failure with his latest string of movies. Maybe this Fresh Prince of Bel-Air can turn upside down Shyamalan's failing career. And that's it for me with cultural news this week. Now back to Greg and Wynn.
Thanks, Bryce. That's all the time we have for you tonight, but remember you can find us online at EIVnews.com.
Thanks for watching EIV News. Have a great weekend.
This has been a presentation of EIV News and Emerson Independent Video. For more, visit us online at EIVnews.com.